I think we're live.
Break it down, Christian. Break it down.
Good morning, everyone. I think we're live.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We're having a good morning today, especially with Chris. Hey, got a new haircut, didn't you?
I did. You know, I've been going to the Diamond Cuts place on Independence, and I've got a lady who cuts my hair now. Her name is Maria. And I just have to make sure I take pictures and take her because she doesn't speak English. Yeah, she made me look a little younger. So
I see that.
Dr. B. Well, welcome everyone to Coffee and Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts. Thank you for those who are joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube later and also Facebook as well. With us today, we have a small but powerful group compared to last week. We had a lot of groups, almost 4,000 viewers and counting for last week's Politics show. It was great. I've watched it 3 times and it was very, very informative. Today, we are going to be talking about why political parties try, I have to put the word try, to vote shame Latinx voters. And we've got a great group here. So as we always do, we'll go around the screen and introduce yourself on the small Brady Bunch screen. It's very small, so anyone can go. It allows me to share. So you guys do a little bit talking, introduce yourself, your imaginary button, and then we'll start like we always do. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm Stephen DiFiore. I'm the Libertarian Party candidate for governor in 2020. I'm a member of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina and the Party of Mecklenburg County. And today's button actually is the Libertarian Party's pin. So our official symbol is a little torch of liberty because we believe in the promise of the American founding, which hadn't always been perfectly left open to the people who lived in this country. But with every generation, it gets a little better. And that's kind of what we're all about, making America a freer and more prosperous land for everybody who lives here. And that's something I'm passionate about too.
Excellent.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruth Perez. Everybody calls me now Mama Ruth, since I have 3 great grandchildren. No, they're not great children. They're grandkids. I'm a community advocate, and I am very passionate for my community. I love serving them. I love bridging all the resources that are out there for everyone. I'm part of the medical care right now with Charlotte Community Health Clinic. I've been a board member for about 3 going on 4 years already. And my imaginary button, since I don't have one right now, is that we need a Medicare for all. And also, as everyone knows, I'm a mother of 5 boys, and I get scared every morning when my kids are out of the door with my husband. We just had 3 deaths in Mecklenburg County within 12 hours. We need some gun sense reform. We need to do something about it. We need a better security system out in the streets. And thank you for watching us. Let's get started. What's our topic? No, I'm just playing.
Girl, I should talk a lot so I can share. Okay, well, I've done as much as I can. Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Mama Ruth, and our other frequently almost co-host now, Stephen, who's been filling in a lot since Jeff Scott is on a hiatus. Obviously, he's running for office, and we do miss him, and we wish him well. Unfortunately, I'm not voting for him, but we do miss him. Yeah, but he's an option. But this is a perfect example of the topic we're going to be talking about today is why do political parties or people in general try to vote shame Latinx? And I'm just using the word Latinx because that's really our targeted audience here. They vote shame almost all marginalized communities I've noticed, and we can give some examples. But before we do that, let us salute to Coffee and Dulce. I remembered.
Just like Latinx, I am. Here's my jarrito, Mexican jarrito for my coffee.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's fancy. You're fancy at your house. You're fancy.
I love it.
And we also want to thank Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue, our Dulce sponsor. I filled up yesterday with all this beautiful Dulce, which is 0 calories probably. Oh, what
Definitely
you got there?
0.
I got Manolo's Bakery too.
Yes. Yeah. So please remember to visit and continue to support your locally small businesses, and help them get through this global pandemic as well. So with that said, let's talk about vote shaming. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because it seems around this time of year, as we get, to the almost the finish line, you start getting people who start vote shaming people. It was really bad in 2016, and I never saw it as bad in 2016 with the Hillary campaign. Hillary campaign, a lot of her surrogates, because I think it all starts from the top. The candidate just lets their people go free to try to vote shame other people. That's just part of the strategy, or they turn a blind eye. It's okay. If you want to do it. The Hillary campaign were so bad. They were, if you don't vote for Hillary, you're wasting your vote. And really, that was the worst I've ever seen it. It came over a little bit in 2018 with the Me Too movement. It kind of carried over a little bit. And then it is carried over somewhat in this. The Biden campaign hasn't really done that as badly, but there's still some of it going on, especially those who still try to do that practice. But we all know those individuals who do it, and it doesn't work with me, but it may work with anyone else. So and maybe we can just let everyone kind of explain what they think vote shaming, because to me, vote shaming is no different than trying to suppress. It's voter suppression. And if you do it enough to a marginalized community, you basically just turn them off because they're confused. They don't know what they're doing, or they really believe that their vote doesn't count. It's a wasted vote. And, I'm all about, or I believe what we should be about is just getting people to vote, as many people to vote. I know, Stephen, in last week's show or the week before, I can't remember, I was watching it, and you mentioned that the biggest segment of individuals were people who didn't vote. Is that?
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Yeah.
So, Stephen, tell me, because as a third-party candidate, you probably hear this all the time, and I don't know how you do it sometimes, but I give you guys credit. What does vote shaming mean to you, and what do you see?
So in elections, especially we have there are 2 kinds of elections typically, right? There's like the regular kind of election, and then there are fear elections. And we have, you'll hear pundits say we have a 2-party system. What that basically means is there is a political cartel that is controlled by the Republican Party and the Democrat Party together. It's a duopoly, and they work together to prevent any kind of competition to usurp their power. So, for example, you have the Commission of Presidential Debates, which is a corrupt cartel that is their exclusive mission is to make sure that any other voice isn't heard on the presidential debate stage. And they'll invent every other reason they can think of. So you'll have a candidate like the Libertarian candidate, Joe Jorgensen, who is on the ballot in all 50 states. And they'll say, nah, they don't have a chance to win. Now, you don't have a chance to win if you're not on the ballot in enough states, right? But if you're on the ballot in all 50 states, the only thing you need to win is for people to vote for you. So there's a strong push by the Republican establishment and the Democratic Party establishment to make sure that other kinds of voices are marginalized, right? So the green voice has to be marginalized. If you are in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which is a smaller, subset of the Democratic Party, your voice has to be marginalized. If you are a libertarian, your voice has to be marginalized. If you're what's called a constitutional conservative, but you're actually a classical liberal in the sort of Eric Massey, Rand Paul sort of camp of republicanism, your voice can't be bullhorned too much, because the things that the parties are really concerned about are holding on to their own power. And there are a lot of surrogate groups that are around them that buy into this really hard. And, the idea that if you don't vote for my guy or gal, you're voting for somebody else, that is a tactic of fear and repression, because at the end of the day, if you vote for the candidate that you truly believe in, right, that vote goes to that candidate. And there's this idea in the Republican Party and Democratic Party establishment that they are owed your vote, that they're obligated, like they deserve, they're entitled to it. And the thing that they don't want other people to understand, and this is something that a lot of people actually, maybe they don't necessarily intuit very well, is that votes have to be earned. So as a third party candidate, as a libertarian candidate, and let's be fair, I love the Greens, but they're not on the ballot in all 50 states. The Libertarian Party is on the ballot in all 50 states. And for all intents and purposes, we are the third party for now, right? I work hard to earn votes because I care about the lives and livelihoods of people. And the people in my community, in the Libertarian Party in North Carolina, for example, we work hard to earn your vote because we don't feel entitled to it. And that really puts a lot of people in the establishment kind of not well at ease. Because if you, for example, if you watch the debates, right, and you watch the debates, whether it's the presidential debate that we had, or the vice presidential debate, what you hear is a lot of rhetoric, but you never hear policy and you never hear substance. The same thing can be said for the debate between the Senate candidates, right? And the upcoming debate with the gubernatorial candidates, excluding me, and the Constitution Party candidate, because they don't want someone to talk about substance, because politicians are not prepared to do that. And so rather than talk about substance, they go off of fear and they say, you got to vote for me. I may not be great, but I'm not as bad as that guy. And I think that's a destructive mindset.
Exactly. Mama Ruth, what do you think? Have you been?
Not only that, I mean, talking about, let's get closer into our community, our neighbors, our friends. We get vote shamed because we don't agree with their beliefs. And we start getting shoot at, saying or making us feel like we're going to be worst because of the decision that we're making. Okay? I mean, if you don't agree with Democrats, don't vote shame them. Don't judge them. Don't make them believe that they're going straight to hell, because no one knows where you're gonna be ending up once you die. And that's close by. We're not talking about the government, about political wise. We're talking about our own neighbors here, our own family sometimes. Oh, who are you voting for? Who cares who I vote for? I'm gonna vote for what I believe and whatever is convenient for me and my family. And that's something that we have to learn, because if not, we're opening the door and we're allowed for people to start vote shaming us. We are the responsibles of doing that.
Exactly. I mean, the emphasis should be just vote, 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 and the more people that vote, the best person will eventually win. But to your point, Stephen, for those who don't really understand how, let's say, congressional races or those kind of races work. So for an example, the district that I live in, and I think you guys live in too, North Carolina 9th Congressional District, it is considered an R+8 district. And it's, so in other words, Republicans have an 8-point advantage in this district. So if you run for office, it's a little bit more difficult to raise money as a Democrat, unless you're someone like, Dan McCready, who's the way he did it.
And that's something that the government should stop.
Yes. Oh, well, yeah, fundraise, the way people fundraise. But it comes back, vote shaming comes back to hurt parties, because what happens is the R+8 is determined on the presidential election, the election before. And so the more people that vote Republican, who voted for Trump at the time, 2016, it was based on the 2016 voting data. There was so much vote shaming that went around during that time period that you had a lot of Democrats who didn't vote, or didn't vote for Hillary, or were disenfranchised. And as a result of that, it became an R+8. If everyone had just voted for whoever they wanted to vote for, it would probably be an R+3, an R+2, because if you voted for a libertarian candidate, that would kind of bring those numbers down. If you voted for
maybe tie.
Yes, exactly. And so it hurts both parties in districts like this one. So Cynthia Wallace wouldn't be fighting so hard to raise money to beat Dan Bishop. Cynthia Wallace should be a shoo-in to beat Dan Bishop if she had just a fraction of what Dan McCready raised. If the Democratic Party had given her just $1 million to run against Dan Bishop, just to be able to do mailers or things like that, because Dan Bishop, I don't know if you read the editorial, he wouldn't have never have gotten the endorsement from the Charlotte Observer. But we really have to remind people that Dan Bishop's crazy. I mean, he's a racist. He's anti-LGBT. He's really cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And you have to be able to highlight and remind people how dangerous he is. But it does end up hurting people on districts like this. So if everyone just went out and voted for whoever you decided to vote for, it would bring those percentages down so races would be more competitive in the next election. And so I really appreciate what you said, Stephen, but a question I have, and this is a little bit off the subject, but then we'll get back to vote shaming, is I was a little bit confused because our Democratic Party specifically really pushed at the beginning of this year, at the end of last year, absentee ballots and mail-in ballots. Everyone, order your absentee ballot and mail-in ballot so that way we can really push it. Because traditionally in this state, it's kind of a wash. Democrats and Republicans both do well in absentee balloting. Democrats do well in early voting and Republicans do well in day of voting. That's traditionally kind of how it works. And so they wanted to kind of tip the scales. And then when COVID-19 happened, it was everybody, order. So my family ordered 2 absentee ballots and we have them here. They have not been completed.
But we ordered them?
Yes, well, we ordered them back in whenever, July. And so we got them. And now we want to, early voting starts tomorrow in North Carolina, and we want to go and early vote instead of turning to absentee ballot. We were confused on, do we have to surrender the ballot? Can we still do it? Is it 2 voting? What do you know about that, Stephen? I mean, I know you're not the Board of Elections expert, but you may have a little bit more insight, because if I'm confused, other people might be confused.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I will start by saying that if you have questions about the election, right, and you live in Charlotte or you live in Mecklenburg County or you live in North Carolina, call your local county board of elections. In particular, the Charlotte County Board of Elections are amazing people. They are fantastic. They're professional, they're friendly, and they really care about what they do. I'm not as familiar with other county boards of elections, but if you live in Mecklenburg County, you lucked out because we got an awesome one. So if you have any questions, the experts are those folks. Just give them a call, right? Just type in Google North Carolina County Board of Elections or Mecklenburg County Board of Elections. That being said, when the votes that are counted are the votes that are turned in. So let's say you ordered an absentee ballot, right? But you decided, nah, I want to go early vote. Cool. Take that absentee ballot, put it in your jacket pocket, go to the county, go to your early voting place, and just talk to the, like, hey, I have this absentee ballot, but I just tear it up. I don't really care about it. I want to vote. Cool, vote. There you go. Then you do your little tabulation, and then that's that, and then your vote is counted, right? With the little touchscreen thing. Let's say, for example, you can't remember if you actually ordered an absentee ballot and mailed it in or not, because, like, let's say you got into a car accident, you bumped your head really bad, and the a month is kind of fuzzy. You can go into a county board of elections, or so you can go to an early voting station. You can say, I don't know if I voted early or not. Maybe I could just get a provisional ballot, and you'll fill out the provisional ballot, and then on election day, when the votes are being tabulated, they'll look to see if you have a one that was on file, and then that one will be counted, not the provisional, and that will protect you from voter fraud, because you don't know, right? Then that's the best way.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the right way. What Trump was saying was vote twice, and let's just see if the system catches it. And so that was really what he was saying.
So don't vote twice. Don't vote twice, because it's a crime, but it's also kind of wrong. Like, just don't do it. One man, one vote, or one person, one vote, as they say. But if you have,
it's interesting on that, because I got confused 2 years ago. I'm in Union County, but I also used to vote in Mecklenburg.
Mhm.
Well, I know for a fact, even though I changed my address and everything, and I think I mentioned to Chris last time,
Mhm.
my name's still up there. I can still go and vote in Mecklenburg and then come back and vote here. And it's
Well,
weird.
you're
And
muted.
that's, you're
Oh,
muted.
gotcha. So if
And
that's
that's
the
weird because they have not fixed none of the stuff properly.
Yeah, so if you know that's the case, if you live in Union County and the voter rolls for whatever reason haven't been expunged in Mecklenburg, and that can happen, right? Um, don't take advantage of that. Like
Oh,
don't
yeah.
vote twice because that will be discovered, right? Like I said, the North Car for all the complaints that I don't know why my camera's freaking out. Anyways, for all the complaints that people can have about North Carolina politics, the General Assembly, the governor's race, the council estate, etc. One thing we're fortunate about is we do typically have really good people on our boards of elections.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I will say they will find that out. In fact, that's one of the reasons that through North Carolina 09 up
Yeah,
into up into the air,
yeah.
because some
They caught that.
discrepancies were found and they're like, wait, something looks fishy. And they dug into it. And that's when they found out about, what was his name? McCrae Dallas and that
Yeah,
whole, yeah,
yeah.
it's just that whole ridiculous farce. So they will find that out. So I would just, if you live
Another
in
thing,
Union, vote in Union.
another thing that is very interesting is that some of my friends, they keep on receiving mail
Mhm.
and for their son, and their son, it's a felon.
Mhm.
And they keep on getting voting information for him, like
Yeah.
making them go and
Is
register.
he a felon in prison right now, or is he out?
No. He was just charged with a felony. So they're
Yeah.
confused because they're like, okay, we want to vote, but then
So my understanding about how voting laws and felonies work in North Carolina is that you do not have your franchise taken away until a judge puts that gavel down and you get led away to prison to serve your time. And while you're in prison, of course, your rights are just kind of, in limbo and you can't vote or, live free or whatever. When you get out, right? I believe there's a legal process that you can go through. I'm not as familiar with it, but then
Yeah.
your franchise is reinstated.
oh no,
Mhm.
he was never in prison or anything. He was just charged with a felony. He
Yeah.
was convicted as a felon, and that was it.
Well,
He never went to
I guess
jail.
I guess the best thing to do for everyone who's watching this show, whatever, is to contact your board of elections,
Yeah.
ask them those questions. I agree, Stephen. We have a really good board of elections in Mecklenburg County. Great people that work there. They're nonpartisan. They do their best. Just their whole job is just to encourage people to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all around our 100 counties in North Carolina, we have those. So what I was gonna get back to vote shaming, and
One more thing before I forget. If you
yes,
have an absentee ballot and you're a little worried about mailing it in, you can hand deliver it to the Board of Elections, and that guarantees that it'll be counted. So, if that's something that you're worried about, hand deliver it to the Board of Elections, and that should be fine.
excellent, excellent. Well, and I can see how vote shaming gets out of hand, and I think it's done even within our own marginalized communities. Before I was Latinx, believe it or not, I was LGBTQ. And there's so many LGBTQI. There's so many letters. I'm just going to go with LGBTQ. And then, so I was really, those were a lot of the issues that were important to me in the top 10 issues that I consider when I'm considering candidates. Are they LGBTQ friendly? How do they feel about libertarian issues on what I do in my own home and so forth? And then, of course, as I have started to really embrace my Latinx culture, I have become, those issues have become maybe not important, but just less. There's other issues that are just as important. So in our LGBTQ community, there's a lot of vote shaming that goes around. And it was really highlighted during the Hillary campaign. If you're gay and you don't vote for Hillary, you're killing your own people. You're, this. And even this current election, when I raised concerns about Cal Cunningham and his lack of just standing for anything, there's a lot of people who follow our show, but also who are, we all know, who are telling me, Christian, if you don't vote for Cal Cunningham, you're killing me. You're killing me, and you're killing people like me. And it was like so much like, oh my gosh, it was just so overwhelming. Of course, off camera, I was like, that's, it's not going to change how I feel, but it was like, I mean, because I think it was done to them that they feel like that's the best way to try to convince people. The best thing to do is to say, tell me the argument about Cal Cunningham and about Tom Tillis, and tell me, which one, and the third party, the libertarian, there's a Constitution person, share with me those articles. But for the life of me, I just could not embrace a typical, with both Cal and Tom Tillis, a typical North Carolina privileged, what I call in Cal Cunningham, a plantation Democrat who lives by different rules than the rest of us. And I'm going to play this clip for you because this is one of the concerns I had before this scandal. And I had been hearing things about him and just how he treated people within our own party, people of color, the kind of the arrogance that he had. And our party decided to hand select him to run for office because they felt like this is the image of the person that we want as the Democrat, is a white Democratic male. So he ran on family values because he felt like he could attract people. Well, when you bring your family into this, like he has done, once you fall, it's people have the right. So I'm going to play this clip and let's see if this works here. After this situation that occurred, he gave his very first interview. I think it was last week, and this is the well, it may not let me here. Let's see if we can do this. Oh, okay. Well, I can't figure it out. So because I can't figure it out, and I apologize everyone who's watching.
I can see your screen now.
Oh, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try to play this clip, and everyone knows I'm not a big fan of Joe Bruno.
Questions from reporters for the first time since his sexting scandal broke. Our government reporter Joe Bruno is live tonight after questioning him about his affair.
We're looking at your personal Facebook profile screen.
Oh, so you can't hear that?
Oh, we can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Do you have two screens on?
Yeah. Oh. Well, in that case, sorry about that. So
we're listening to it.
In a brutal and at times uncomfortable press conference, Cal Cunningham once again apologized, but was more evasive than frank.
I've taken responsibility for hurt that I've caused in my personal life. I've apologized to it. I've apologized for it. And I know this campaign, our campaign is about things that are much bigger and more important than just me.
Last week, sex surfaced between the Democratic U.S. Senate candidate, a married father of two, and Arlene Guzman Todd, a California strategist. In an interview with the Associated Press, Todd said she and Cunningham were intimate as recently as July. Cunningham, a lieutenant colonel, is now under an Army Reserve investigation. I, along with three other news reporters in slightly different ways, asked Cunningham whether more women or more allegations will surface. Cunningham declined to say all 4 times.
Now, with all due respect, you did not answer Brian's question. Are there more women?
Let me be very clear. I'm hearing from North Carolina that are telling me in no uncertain terms that they want their Senate candidate talking about the issues like those that we're talking about right here today.
He says that people are tired of hearing about personal issues. He wants the focus of the race to be on things like healthcare and COVID response, issues he says Senator Tom Tillis doesn't want to harp on.
So of course he's going to want to talk about my personal life. I'm going to stay focused on North Carolinians.
So 4 times he was asked, are there any other things that almost like that we should know? All you have to say is, no, I'm sorry, this. But he was so arrogant in his answer that basically he was telling the reporters 4 times, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just going to stay on the phone. It's so full of baloney that it really concerned me because this is the type of individual that we put up. And it takes a lot of privilege for someone to be so arrogant and selfish to do. If it were anybody else, they'd have to sit there and go, I'm so sorry. And so anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think? Does that impact you at all?
I mean, unpopular opinion from my perspective, I don't care about the personal lives of our elected leaders. Anyone who thinks that the people who really want to be in these positions of power and are well situated within the duopoly to be able to be anointed, their anointed son, if you think they are of any kind of high degree of moral character or standing, I got a bridge to sell you in New York. I mean, no one expects that these people are awesome, decent human beings. I mean, heck, the Democratic Party has a vice presidential VP candidate who withheld exculpatory evidence on a capital murder case. I mean, that's horrendous, to speak nothing of the other side's presidential candidate, how they, used eminent domain to kick widows out of their homes so they could build their next failing hotel. I mean, these are not moral, upstanding people, right?
Yeah.
And I don't understand why we're surprised when they act like the the debauched people that they surround themselves with. I mean, you even have the Speaker of the House. It's like, hey, listen, I don't want to do COVID relief. We'll do that after the election, and then I'll go eat my ice cream out of my $26,000 fridge. It's like, all right, thanks, whatever. And I mean, don't even get me started on the turtle from Tennessee.
From Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So, Mama Ruth,
It's so confusing because at the end, we don't have better or worse choices. Either way.
But that's the reason I wanted to play this, was because this is the reason that we get candidates like him.
But now let me tell you, you're right. Your party idealized him.
Yes.
Makes it seem like he's the best choice out there. But at the end, he's at the same level as number 45.
Exactly. That's my point. And to exactly Steve, when you're a candidate and you make a decision how you're running. When I ran and I never brought my family into this, it was about me. It was like a job interview. It was about me, about me, about me. My life is private. If they ask me about it, I'll answer it, like you would in a job interview, but it's about me. Candidates like Cal Cunningham, Dan McCready, Jeff Jackson, a lot of white male and a lot of white female, they always have pictures of their family, the kids, because they purposely push this family thing because they want people to think, well, this is the idea, this is the way it should look like, this is the image it should. So when you start bringing your family into it, when you do that, you expose yourself to those kind of things. So you can't run and say, I'm about family, I'm about this. And then when you make a mistake, people go, well, hold on, I thought you were the one, the same reason that we're in the LGBT community, we used to be, up until recently, this election, the LGBT community used to always, they would have a Republican's head on a plate if they were against LGBT rights, and then suddenly they were caught in a gay affair. It would be hypocrite, this, yada, yada, yada. So for some reason, this doesn't apply to Cal Cunningham because they see him as whatever the reason. So I just think we have to be fair. So if he didn't
want to make sure, isn't it better for either an open gay or a active prostitute to come out and say, I want to run for office, than having someone living a double life and getting screwed up like that?
That's my whole point. And I don't know what this has a lot to do with vote shaming, but I wanted to bring that up because it talks about the hypocrisy.
It does, because it talks about our so holy society in front of others, but not accepting the reality of person that as a human being, you can make mistakes. There's no one perfect, but that doesn't mean that you're going to play a perfect out there,
And so to Stephen's point, Stephen runs specifically, and I know you from what we talk about here and so forth. Stephen's not really out there on commercials on TV with him and his family and his dog and things like that. I mean, he's running on him. And so if something like this were happening,
One caveat to that, though, on my mailer, I do have a picture of my dog and me.
Okay.
I have not seen that.
So it happens.
Okay. So if you ran over, you're backed up onto your dog. No, I'm just saying hypothetically, if you did something mean to your dog, if it was some type of dog abuse, wouldn't we have a right, because you brought your dog into the election, to say, how could you do that, Stephen? And then for you to say, what happens between my dog and I is my business, and I'm not going to answer any more questions. Well, then why did you put your dog on your flyer?
It speaks to moral character. If you're gonna abuse a dog, right? Like, for one thing, like, dogs are helpless creatures. They can't, like, why would you, like, you're a bad person, right? And now here's the thing, like, if, for example, this Cal Cunningham fella is in an open relationship with his wife, okay, like, I ain't gonna kink shame nobody. It may not be my thing, and if you're gonna commit infidelity, again, like, I don't like it, and that may be involved, like that may be a calculus in who I decide to vote for. Like, oh, they don't represent my personal values, I don't want them representing me. And that is fair, because at the end of the day, in our republic, we are voting for individuals to represent us in government. And some of us care about just policy, and some of us care about policy and personality. Some of us care about shared values, whatever metric that is. And so when you're a politician, you're kind of opening up, I wouldn't say a Pandora's box, but you're opening up your house. You're throwing back the curtains of all the windows in your house, and you're saying, this is kind of what I'm all about. And that's the price I think you kind of have to pay if you are trying to have power over people.
Especially when you sell yourself as this perfect person, and so
you actually become a public figure. So it's like, okay, remember the case of Winston?
Oh yeah, exactly.
I mean, it wasn't his personal, we didn't care about his personal life. We did like him as a person, but it came out that he had to get a divorce, and they were trying to shame him about that. And he said it clear, whatever happens.
Divorces happen, everyone knows someone who's been divorced, right? And like, I'll just say, for me, a man's personal life doesn't or even a woman's personal life, it doesn't really matter to me all that much, right? It depends on what they're doing. But your professional life, the issues, those are the things that voters like me really care about.
So hey, listen, we've got Cyndi. Hey, Cyndi from Texas. She's joined us, and I want to ask her about this too, because even though Cal Cunningham's not running in Texas, how would you feel if, let's say, Ted Cruz, when they were running, Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke was running, and Beto O'Rourke was running, but he was more a progressive individual. But how would you feel if it came out like Ted Cruz was sexting someone while he was running? It was not. This is what I have to explain to people. This is not something Cal Cunningham did 2 years ago. When you decide you're running for office, you scrub your social media, you do your Nexus Lexus, you do everything. You try to prepare everybody for everything. He did this while he was running. So on a campaign phone, so you have to have this get caught, but it's just. Yeah, I can just say it wasn't me. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Cyndi? Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Cyndi. Oh, let me see.
There you go.
Okay, now?
Yes.
Okay, I just think that we no longer hold these people to the highest standards, and I think that morally and I mean, you're supposed to be showing professionalism, and that's not happening, and that's not somebody that I would trust to be in office. I'm sorry, I know everybody says, oh, but who are we to judge, and it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the way they would run, in office, but to me, it says everything, because if you're going to do something like that while you're running, especially while you're running, just shows me you're gonna do everything you can in a immoral way, and I'm no longer gonna have that respect for that person.
It would be like, and because I was trying to put this in an analogy that I could explain to myself.
Mhm.
When you're running for office, you're supposed to be on your best behavior. Don't
Right.
get drunk at bars. Don't hire a hooker. At least during that brief time period, try to be perfect. You can explain things that happened before. I failed. I've learned from that. It's a teaching moment, all those things. But while you're running, it's like it's like going to a job interview and getting drunk on the way to the job interview. I mean, you're supposed to be on your best behavior from the time you leave to the job interview. And then to show up and go, were you at the bar? Well, I don't want to discuss that at this moment. But, it's just, there's a height of arrogance to that. But
You're
It's
right.
like those candidates that get caught with DWIs while they're running. It's like,
exactly.
what are you doing? Not only are you doing something irresponsible, you're putting other people at risk, you
Yes.
ridiculous a-hole.
Like the Mad Mother. Remember when she held the Mad presidency or something.
Yeah.
And
And
then
she-
she was caught. Yeah. And I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yeah, and so I agree with you, Cyndi, that we have. So what I'm saying is, I'm not going to vote shame people and say don't vote for Cal Cunningham because of what he did. What I'm
Right.
saying, what I'm saying is, you have to make a decision on what's best for how you value people that you vote for.
Mhm.
But don't vote shame, but don't be surprised if other people show their concerns and say that's very hypocritical or this is a concern. Don't tell me what he does in his private life is none of my business. It may be none of your business, but I'm not the one who put his family on the cover of all of his stuff. He did that.
And
Had
the
he
spot-
not done that,
Mhm.
yeah, and so that's what we're talking about, vote shaming. So there are a lot of people of color, our Latinx community, especially very conservative Latinx people in this state in North Carolina, who are watching this thing unfold with Cal Cunningham, and that's a really big concern of theirs, is that they would have someone. I have been cheated on. There is nothing more painful than the feeling of someone who you trust lying to you. That is a very painful, and you go out later with your friends and you get over it. But
To me, this is vote shaming. Getting this in the mail, and then when you open it, putting Joe Biden on the lowest, saying that he has run, because this confuses a lot of our voters. Says that that Joe Biden ran for president 33 years ago. It tells you Joe Biden ran for president again 13 years ago. Joe Biden ran, and now he's running again for president. Makes it seem like, oh, he's a loser.
Yeah.
That's vote shaming for me.
So I can give an example of vote shaming from the other side, right? So, it's all I'll say it's all fun it's all fun to beat up on the Democrats a little bit, but I think the Republicans shouldn't be left out of this. So libertarians are often seen, for some strange reason, as Republican light, and that's not really the case, but people perceive that to be the case. And so there are instances where a libertarian is going to vote for their candidate, and conservatives, if you're like in a conservative area, will say that's a vote for the Democrat, or that's a vote for the other guy. And so here's an example. So in Wake County, we have a Senate candidate for NC Senate 17, a guy by the name of Travis Grew. I know him very well. He is a great advocate for individual rights, for all of your rights to marry, to love who you want, he's, as a party, we're pro legalization for most, if not all, drugs, because we think that treating something as an addiction rather than throwing you in prison for it is a better way to solve problems. And one of the issues that libertarians are really strong on are Second Amendment rights. Now, that may be a point of disagreement with some members of your audience, but libertarians are pro Second Amendment. And so there was a case earlier this year where the Wake County sheriff, whose name I forget, was withholding pistol permits, saying that you can't get a permit for a period of time because of COVID or whatever excuse they made. And, that's a violation of rights under the law in North Carolina because we are a shall issue state. And so Travis actually sued the sheriff in Wake County saying, you can't do that. That's against the law. He won his lawsuit, right? So if you're in like a conservative area and like your Second Amendment is your thing, Travis is a guy who actually fought really, really hard for your Second Amendment right by suing the sheriff when he decided not to not to issue pistol permits. The Republicans were nowhere to be seen. Now, part of elections are advocacy groups. They're like nonpartisan,
Yeah.
but we all really know where they lie. And so one such pro-gun group in North Carolina advocated not for Travis, someone who actually did the work on the ground of fighting for your Second Amendment right. They advocated for and are promoting the Republican challenger who didn't do anything. And
Because
when you bring them to task on that, they say, well, if you vote for a third party, you're voting for the Democrat. It's like, no, if you vote for someone who is in support of your rights, you're voting for someone in support of your rights. You're not voting for the other team.
Exactly.
This is the politics of fear, the
Yes.
politics of power, because in the end of the day, the duopoly and their cadre of acolytes around them in the outer circle are only interested in holding on to their little bit of power, and they don't really care about us.
Well, no, you're exactly right, Stephen, because what we know, those who are familiar with how campaigns are run and how data is run and market research and everything, that if everyone really just voted for the issues that were important, regardless of who the candidate was, the next election would be completely different because those candidates would run on those issues because they know from the data, I need to run on Medicare for all, or I need to run on whatever the issue is, healthcare, or I need to run on whatever the issue. Only reason all these Democrats are running on healthcare is because Medicare for all is so popular with the base. So they reached a compromise to run on healthcare and this generic term, which means nothing, pharmaceutical prices, and this is all of that kind of stuff. It's all, just
Like
gibberish.
under it.
Yeah, and so, but just to your point, Stephen, because we always agree with everything, those of us who, I believe in the Second Amendment, I just believe in safe gun rights. So that's one of the things, to your point. But also, I was just going to say, this last thing I say about Cal Cunningham, because I don't want to give him any more time and attention than he probably will win. He probably win the election. What I was saying is, if you really wanted to know if Cal Cunningham was doing this race for the country or for Democrats or for democracy, is what he would say is, what I did was wrong. I lost your trust, and I'm going to win this election because I know how important it is to flip the Senate. I'm going to get seated, and then I'm going to resign and let the governor of the Democrats appoint someone else, because this election is not about me. It's about you and those issues. That would prove that he's a man of honor. That would prove that it's not about him. Or he would say, I'm only going to run one term. When I get in place, I'm going to stay one term and that's it, because I have failed you and we deserve better in candidates like this. That would prove that this election is not about him, but he couldn't say it. And in that clip, they asked him, are there any other women that we should know about or this? And he was like, I'm not going to answer that question, because we all know that there probably are other women. So why put us in this, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it shows that it's about him. And would I do that same thing? I mean, I don't know. I have to make that decision, but I do think that you have to make a decision. If this is, let's be fair, when someone's running for office, yes, it is a little bit about them because they're on the ballot, but there are many candidates where you have to ask them, are you willing to step down to do what's best for your community if something was required? And there are very few candidates that are willing to do this, which is why we need term limits, is to make them leave. And so that's what I have to say about Cal. For those who's saying, if this was really not about Cal, then he would say that. He would say, what's important is flipping the Senate, the long game. What I did was, but you know what? We only got so many days before the election. Let's get me into office. once I get into office, I'm going to resign and I'm going to maybe help to get my wife on the Senate or a person of color on the Senate, because then it would show people this is not about him and his political ambitions. So that's what I have to say about that. Vote shaming.
There are a couple tools for voters who want to, say, build up an immunity to vote shaming. These are tools that I use. So one is an app called Vote Spotter, where this is for people who are like really into it, really into voting, really into government, and are kind of nerds on it. So maybe not for like everyday people, but you can go to, like, for example, Vote Spotter tracks at the federal level bills and your elected representative and how they vote, and you do a thumbs up, thumbs down whether you agree with their vote or not, and then you'll get, like, oh, you disagree with this candidate 50% of the time, or you agree with this 60% of the time, and you have a comparison to how you are, like how you shape up with or measure up to other people who use the Vote Spotter app. And that can be a good idea. Like, that's a good way to say, like, oh, I may not, like, for example, if you're like me and you care about policy, I may not agree with some of the things that the candidates like value, but they seem to vote the way that I like, which is what, as a representative, in a republic, you kind of want. So like, that's interesting. Or like, for example, hey, I like this guy's values, but man, I hate the way he votes, again. So that's another thing. And then if that's not your speed and that's not something you like to do, and you're like, well, I don't know who represents me or who's most similar to me and who I want to cast my support for, you can go to a website like I Side With and take their political quiz. They'll ask like 100 questions. It takes a little while. You'll sit down, grab a cup of coffee and a snack, and just go through it. You only have to do it once, and you'll get like a percentage match with people on the ballot. 90%, 70%, 20%, whatever it is, with either parties or candidates. And you're like, oh, okay, so I'm most aligned with this or that. And they're like, well, okay, I'll throw my support to them or not. And it's interesting because it can be illuminating, because you can think like, oh, I'm a Democrat, and then you vote, it's like, oh, I'm more Green Party. Maybe I should support Howie Hawkins, or oh, I'm a Joe Jorgensen guy. Oh, okay, maybe I should support the Libertarians. Whatever it is.
I did not even, quite honestly, I did not know I was a Democratic Libertarian until we started doing this show, until listening to Jeff, listening to some of the issues that we've been talking about. And I realized I'm a Democrat, but I really lean Libertarian. And so you're right. I mean, sometimes you don't even know. We say conservative. What really is conservative? Is conservative conserving our environment? Is it conserving? So in many ways, I'm a very big conservative, because I believe in conserving our environment, conserving life, conserving, those. So it's how we use those
in
terms.
the political space. Conservatives try to keep the status quo, right? And we always think of left and right, but there's another dynamic of authoritarian and libertarian, which is basically other people should tell you what to do, versus you should be left up to yourself and your community to figure out what to do. And in the Libertarian Party, we have what are called left libertarians. So these are people who, like, they're cool with living on kibbutzes and communes and stuff, and they think rent is theft or whatever. Okay. They're a small group. But they're there because they don't want to force other people to live like them. And then most of us are more on the, I guess, the economic right side. We're more like capitalist or whatever. But again, we don't want to force other people to live like we want.
Well, that's funny you say that, Stephen, and then we're going to start closing down here, is because every time I hear a Democratic, especially in Mecklenburg County, because that's the big talking point, affordable housing, I'm concerned about. No one who pays a mortgage or rent believes their mortgage or rent is affordable. So affordable housing is, no one believes anything is affordable. And what's affordable to someone is not affordable to someone else. And when you say, I'm concerned about affordable housing, are you going to pay my mortgage and rent too, just like you do the other person? So in our Latinx community, that term affordable housing doesn't really mean a lot. It's just this like, what do you mean affordable housing? Because everyone is different. And so I always think it's funny when people talk about affordable housing.
Yeah, there's affordable housing and there's housing affordability. And there are ways in a city like Charlotte to actually really tackle that issue, like pretty easily. But for example, one of the things the city council does a lot is review zoning requests, right? And if you essentially have a really simple list of types of zoning properties, and rather than it being this is what is allowed, merely have a short list of what is disallowed, and anything beyond that, if you buy a piece of property, well, you bought it, do whatever you want with it. There's money to be made in building apartments, right? So if you remove the restrictions to building up, right, or what's called increasing density, then the housing supply will increase because there's money to be made there. And as supply increases, and a lot of people are moving to Charlotte because it's a great place to live, the cost of those apartments will go down. Because if I go to one apartment complex and like, oh, it's going to be $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom, I'm like, I'm going to go down the street and see what they got. And they're like, oh, we'll cut you a deal. It's $1,500 a month. A bunch of different places doing that. Eventually price is going to reach a level that most people can, manage. And that is the most effective way that's ever been discovered to handle that in cities like Charlotte. But it necessarily takes a lot of power out of the hand of city council members, because well, if we don't have zoning things to what are we going to do? Well, not keep our housing costs high. That's one thing you're not going to do.
Well, in all fairness, because we try to be as fair as we can, Mecklenburg County and Charlotte is very heavily Democratic. All of our county commission are Democrats, our mayor's Democrat, everyone's Democrat, but only 2 Republicans on the city council. And we've had an affordable housing issue here for 30 years. So you can't say it's a Republican issue because Democrats have been holding power. So it's one of those things that
it's a power issue. It's bipartisan, because the folks on the city council, and I can understand this, oh, we're going to do one less thing. Well, but that's kind of what I want. That makes me feel important, like I'm doing something for the people. It's like, but we already have systems that do that. It's called a market, and you can structure it in a way that makes it fair, and then just let it go, and then just keep an eye on it to see if it gets crazy.
Okay, so we've gone over just a little bit, and we started just a little bit late because of the music issues as usual. But circle back to vote shaming. One of the things I think we really need to do as a Latinx community is we really need to continue to educate our children on the power of our vote, and also how to, like you said, prepare them for vote shaming. Our Latinx community, because we're so diverse and we're mixed, like someone like me, I'm not Latin enough and I'm not white enough. I don't speak enough Spanish. I don't speak good enough English. So it's like, I'm not gay enough. I'm not straight. It's like you're never enough. So growing up as a Tejano or a Mexican or whatever someone calls me at the moment, you've learned to compromise and you've learned to kind of work within the space that you've been given to work within. And so we do need to remind our young people the power. The one thing that I was taught by my grandfather and my father and many of my family members, the one thing that I have that is equal to Warren Buffett or equal to anyone else is my vote. No one can take, I guess you could take it away if I commit a felony or something like that, but the power of my vote is so powerful. It's the one thing that makes me equal to anyone else, regardless of who that person is. I don't even have to donate any money, or someone donates $20,000, I donate $1, we still only get one vote. So that is such a very, very powerful tool, which is probably why people try to suppress that vote, because they know how powerful it is, and they try to vote shame people. So take your vote with pride and the power it has. Listen to what people have to say. I call vote shaming in the sports talk. There's people who talk smack before a game. This is this. It's just banter. It's smack. It's smack that goes overboard. The person who can't get over the fact that their team lost and goes home and has a miserable week. You have to learn how to talk smack. But when it's over, shake hands. We're good. Everything. So, that's what I think we do have to remind people, that your vote is so important, and we have to educate our kids. So I don't know if anybody else wants in 30 seconds about vote shaming or.
Yeah, I'll say that vote shaming, to my mind, is a form of gaslighting, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And that you are right, that every American, from the richest billionaire to the poorest pauper, the one place we're all completely equal in our republic is inside that voting booth, and it's an important thing, and it's one of the things that helps separate America from other places, and I like that about our country. And Christian, you are enough for me.
Cyndi, do you want to say anything? And then we're going to close up. Cyndi, then Mama Ruth.
I was just gonna say, I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, the vote shaming, I understand. People make mistakes. Not everybody's perfect, but if you're gonna run for office, let's not do stuff that's gonna bring attention to yourself and your family, and it's just important, you know, that they focus on the issues and not some 16 or 14-year-old. I'm sorry, I just had to say that, but go ahead.
I agree with you, Cyndi. It is. We should not allow no one, like I said at the beginning, allow no one to vote shame us. We have to believe what we think is right for us and our future. And we go out and vote. I myself go out and vote for this one. Not just for me, but for him. I want a better future for him. I want him to feel free in this country, not by his color, not by if he speaks Spanish or English, but for who he is and who represent him. So go out and vote. Tomorrow we start.
Yes, early voting in North Carolina starts tomorrow. I'm not sure when it starts in Texas, but there's a lot
started yesterday.
Oh, wow. Wonderful, wonderful. There's a lot of really close races. Trump is only up by 1 point in Texas. That's the only state that he's actually on 538 may be winning. Every other state he's losing. But yeah, Texas is very, very close. There's a lot of very close elections. I think if everyone gets out to vote in Texas, they can flip Texas.
Right.
Everyone just has to understand the importance of getting out to vote. It has to be as exciting as it is to go to a Cowboy game. If people were as excited to go to a vote as they are to a Cowboy game where they get ready a week in advance.
That's right. You know, they start getting all their barbecue meats together.
You know, it's sad because, I mean, just by that vote, it makes a big difference. Just think about how they stopped our census beginning yesterday.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to get something, you know, concrete in 10 years. So let's make that difference. This is only going to be a change in 4 years. Let's make it valuable.
So we're gonna stop the show here. We're gonna go around the screen and tell us where you're gonna be. It looks like it's Baby Trump Pinata, Mama Ruth, Stephen, and then Cyndi. Tell us where you're gonna be in 30 seconds or less, and then we will say goodbye. So we'll start with you, Mama Ruth.
I'll be with Jennifer Roberts. There's an event going on virtually tonight.
Yes.
About, I think it's Bobalooza or whatever. Let's learn more about voting and our candidates and all that. Then I'll just be here at home chilling. That's it. See y'all next Wednesday.
Today I get to drive all the way to Raleigh for a candidate training event hosted by the Libertarian Party of Wake County. If any of the Wake County guys are watching, I love what you do. It's fantastic. You're an inspiration to us in Mecklenburg. And then this weekend, I'll be on the campaign trail. So follow us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and check out my website to see what we're up to. And the events that we host, masks are highly recommended. So cover up.
Cyndi, where are you going to be?
I'm going to be driving people to vote. So I volunteered to do that. So my time starts at 1, so I'll be doing that for a couple of hours.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will actually be here this weekend. I think we have some fall cleaning to do in the garage, and I will be hopefully early voting in the next couple of days. So don't forget, next week's show is Latina Power, all about Latinas, and the impact they have on our community. And we just want to remind people, whether you wear a blue hat or a red hat or a gold hat, is that y'all's?
Gold,
Stephen?
yep, it's a beautiful color.
Just remember to go vote. It's very, very important. It's a wonderful, wonderful. Oh, one more plug. Tomorrow.
Or a green hat.
Yes, our green. Yes, our green hat. I'm wearing glasses. I couldn't get my contacts in and they're fogging up. All right. I think tomorrow is the last day of Hispanic Heritage Month. If you have not seen the documentary Latino Americans on PBS, try to find that and watch it. It's a 6-part series. It talks about the Latinx community in America and from how we started from way back from when the country first started until the wars, until present. It's a very interesting documentary. It explains what a Tejano is, about the influence of New Mexico and California and the people who owned the land in California and Texas and so forth. And in our close relationship to our neighbor country, Mexico, and how important that relationship is. So please try to watch this. I ordered the DVD because it was such a very, very important documentary. And I think that is it. Anybody else? I think we're going to wave goodbye. And that's it. We'll see you next week on Coffee and Pandusi. Bye, y'all. Stay on if you're on Zoom.
Bye.
Awesome.